Hi, everyone. John Michael Coppola here, and welcome to the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast. I wanted to quickly remind you that we rely on the support of our listeners. So if you would be so kind, please remember to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with friends and colleagues who you think would appreciate the conversations we're having with your local theater artists. It really would mean so much to have your support in this way so we can continue to bring this podcast to the greater Chicagoland theater community and its audiences. Thanks so much again for your support. Now curtain up on today's episode. The Oak Park Festival Theater is celebrating its 50th season this year as the Midwest's oldest professional outdoor classical theater. The theater's first cast of actors included well-known names such as Linda Kimbrough, William H. Macy, and David Mamet. Known for producing classic works, many are created as multi-generational experiences. To encourage the love of language at an early age, the theater offers free tickets to children 12 and under for every production. Not only do they produce high-quality theater, they are also stewards in the Oak Park community by partnering with such local organizations as Oak Park Regional Housing Authority, Animal Care League, and the 19th Century Charitable Association. In addition to attendance of 7,000 patrons annually, their Community Appreciation Night program offers free tickets to everyone for the first preview performance of every season, removing financial barriers for those who might not otherwise have the means to attend. Because of their strong partnership with the village of Oak Park, they have endured recessions, climate calamities, and a pandemic. And their commitment to community, high-quality art, and the well-being of their artists has them well on their way to celebrating another 50 years. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Artistic Director of the Oak Park Festival Theater, Peter G. Andersen. And now, top of the show. Hi, Peter. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. It's nice to officially meet you. So this is a Chicago Theater Makers podcast, and so I like to start off by asking all of my guests a little bit about your background and what your first theater experience was.
Oh my gosh, sure, yeah. So I'm from Wisconsin originally. I'm from the north suburbs of Milwaukee. The very first theater experience was just as a kid, in the first or second grade, doing a theater summer camp, and we did scenes from A Midsummer Night's Dream. I think a lot of theater kids, I was not great at sports, and so my parents were looking for something for me to do, and that was a really nice thing because I was recommended to go do the children's theater in Milwaukee, and then that introduced me to Milwaukee Shakespeare and folks at the Rep, and I grew up seeing shows at American Players Theater in northern Wisconsin. It really all sort of started there.
And that was what made you want to pursue arts, of course, the early exposure, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely the early exposure, and it is that classic saying: if you can't do anything else, this is like what you should be doing. And I think very early on, I clicked into like this is what I really enjoy doing. I feel really good at this, and made a choice pretty early on that this was a path I wanted to pursue.
Nice. And where's give us a little background about your training and how you pursued it professionally later in your life.
Yeah. I mean, so I think I'd have to just touch back to those experiences. Like I was so lucky, as a young person getting to be hired at First Stage, which is the children's theater, and working with equity actors. All the adults in those shows are equity actors, and having conversations with them. They had a training program for young folks. I was involved with that. Similarly, doing shows at Milwaukee Shakespeare, again, it was more exposure to professional actors, most of them from Chicago, who would come up to Milwaukee. I then went to Emerson College in Boston, which was a really good fit for me. In a way I didn't totally plan out or anticipate, but what ended up working out is, it's a BFA conservatory program, but also the school just has a ton of resources and has student theaters that are given a pretty hefty sum of money.
Oh, nice.
Which goes far when you don't have to pay people or pay for space or pay for equipment. You can get amazing level of design. So I started directing at Emerson and was running one of the student theaters, the Shakespeare Theater. And that was sort of the early days of like, I like acting, but I think I'm a better director. I think that might be where I want to go down the road. And I really like sort of, over my 4 years there, getting to watch this theater company grow and evolve and change. Maybe again, somewhere down the road, I might want to pursue arts administration and arts leadership.
Oh, nice.
So finished my time there at Emerson, acted throughout most of my 20s, was assistant directing at regional houses in addition to that to help pay the bills and to start build up that resume. And then I went to Carnegie Mellon to get my MFA in directing.
Amazing. Great school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell our listeners, what were some of the early challenges you faced in your career, and how did you find the way to overcome them?
Yeah, I think for me, because a couple things, I didn't have a totally clear sense of where I wanted to be and like what I wanted to be doing. So like, for example, I went to school in Boston, so all of my contacts were in Boston or were in Massachusetts. I also am from the Midwest, and like from the beginning was like, I only want to be in Chicago. So I was constantly oscillating between these, like the East Coast and the Midwest. And that's just like, if I could give myself any advice for younger me, like pick one, stay in that lane for a while and really saturate in that.
Yeah.
I think I was pinging all over the place. And so it just took a while to not get momentum, but get momentum in a singular space in a way that I think artists kind of need to have.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And in addition to that, too, I'd add, I was bouncing between acting and directing. And again, like, it's interesting. It's all, now I'm in my 30s, it's all paying off. It all feels like it's come together. But at that time, I was like, maybe I should have, like, really honed in on just one thing.
Sure. So did you, you said you found that you were a better director than an actor. Do you prefer directing over acting, or did you really like acting and just felt the skill set was more geared towards the directing?
I'd say so. It was really interesting. My second year out of school, I had two great experiences in the same year that were kind of helped clarify it for me. I was invited to be at the conservatory at Shakespeare Company, which is in Lenox, Massachusetts, on a full ride. And it's just eat, breathe, sleep Shakespeare all day, 6 days a week, from 9 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
With folks who, like Tina Packer, who have been doing this their whole lives and are just really steeped in the thing. And, I left that time, at the end of it, really feeling quite like I'd really grown. And at the same time, I was like, oh my God, I really don't want to get my MFA in acting. Like, if I roll down my spine one more time, I'm going to scream. And then later that spring, I was also an assistant director at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So this was all in 1 year. Two Shakespeare companies in the mountains on opposite ends of the country. And that was really exciting to work there, see their process, run the room. For a little bit, James Bundy was the director. He's the dean of Yale School of Drama. He had to go away for graduation for like 4 days. So I had to run the room with like some of these like 50, 60-year-old actors. And I
amazing.
Was, like, and I was like, oh, this is so amazing. This is so thrilling. And they gave me space to just direct and gave me actors from the company to direct. And I think it was in that year that I was like, no, I do want to pursue directing. I get to use more of myself in this process.
Yeah.
And like acting can be so microscopic that I'm really just not that interested really in like what is going on in here. I prefer the big picture. I did feel though, and again, I'm glad I did this, that I had to really put in the time and like earn my chops as an actor before I could be a director. So I did act most of my 20s, and I'm glad I did that. I think that's paying off.
Sure, that it forms the directing eye and the directing
100%
skill set. Yeah.
100%.
So how did you find your way then to Oak Park Festival Theater?
Yeah, I just honestly, it's really. I was in my final year at Carnegie Mellon for a semester, and I was like, I have to start thinking about a job. I am gonna be, leave in a year, and so I was just hunting for jobs, and I saw this posting, and I had just finished being on. I was invited to what is the word I'm looking for? Be one of the groups that kind of helped assess the new artistic director for Writers Theater. And so I got to see that process on that level, and I thought, I'm like, oh, I can do this. And so when I saw the posting for Oak Park, I was like, well, let me put my money where my mouth is and see how far I make it in this process. And I got the job while I was still in school. And so I just ended up graduating early. I didn't come back my second semester. I started in December, January of that year.
Wow. So you've been there how many years now?
This is my third summer.
Okay.
My third summer, so 3 years.
You know, it's funny that you've had that post high school and college experience, because I have a lot of friends who've worked extensively on Broadway and on world tours that all either began in college and then got cast or had an opportunity professionally, and they left school and never looked back, and some that had no college experience and they're amazing directors and choreographers in their own right. And it just I mean, I personally, even I got most of my training doing community theater growing up. And then I went to, because I have a twin brother, my dad, when we were entering college age, my dad encouraged us to enroll in Westchester Community College, because he said, look, I want to put you both through college. I need you to start there. Financially, that'd be great for for me. And then I did my 2 years at Westchester Community, and I started auditioning, and I never looked back. I mean, there are some times when I think, well, you know, if I had a bachelor's or if I had a master's, I could teach, or, you know, there are those sort of things you fall back on later in life. But I've been really blessed, and I had some great experiences. So I love that I can hear all these different stories of people getting their training a bunch of different ways and still get these professional experiences that are so fulfilling for them and for others.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you know, we have an apprentice program at Oak Park Festival Theater, and you know, I try to reiterate that to them, because some don't go to college, some have just graduated, some are thinking about shifting schools, and they really panic about that. And I'm like, you know, it doesn't really matter. I think as long as you are putting in the work and like being a good person and showing up on time and like hungry to grow, like people recognize that pretty quickly.
1,000%. The half of life is just showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I've got a kid in college right now, and not to toot his horn, but he's at Butler University in Indianapolis, majoring in arts administration. He got a 4.0 and he made the dean's list. Much to his own surprise. And you know, he tells my wife and I all the time, I don't know why people say it's so difficult. All you got to do is just show up and do the work. And it's like, yeah, dude, I'm glad you're learning that lesson early, because that's exactly right for success.
Well, and especially this, you know, I say to them, like, when they're in school, I mean, like, make the most of it, because that is the easiest it'll be.
That is true.
You know, like when I was at Emerson, I was like, oh, I clocked really quickly. I was like, oh my God, they're giving us like tens of thousands of dollars to do a play. Like, if I sign a little form, and this is true. I mean, it's never going to be that easy again. So let me make the most of my time there, right? And leave with the portfolio. So yeah,
that's wonderful. If you had to, if you had a magic wand, a theater magic wand, and you could make any change you could to either the theater landscape or the process, like what are some magic changes you would make?
I would wave my magic wand and have the United States give the same level of arts funding that Germany does.
Bravo! Yes,
or anywhere else. Really, it's, you know, it is really. I just had a meeting with another artistic director yesterday, and it's just really, the landscape financially is really grim. And I think, you know, being in this position, and I had worked other arts admin jobs before, so I was a little clued in, but I'm really clued in now. Like, it's just really grim the way it's looking, and just in terms of public funding, in terms of private funding from foundations, and what I'm learning is there's a level of education that needs to happen on the individual level. People just don't know how bad it is. Our audiences don't know, and so, I think the only way forward is to help educate them and let them know. So that's the magic wand I would wave.
Amazing. So give us a little history about Oak Park Festival Theater and, some things that are on the horizon. If you can talk about those things, sometimes they have to be kept a little close to the chest when development, but give us some background there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really special space. We just turned 50 this year, which is incredible. We're one of 5 Chicagoland theaters that can claim that title. And we are also claiming the title of being like the oldest outdoor classical theater festival. Like there's no one else kind of doing what we're doing on that length of time, which is amazing. We were founded in 1975. Some of our more famous alumni are Linda Kimbrough, Bill Macy, and David Mamet. They helped start the company and were there for the first couple seasons. The theater, the first year was, like a lot of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, sort of mom and pop theater at the time was on the back of a truck and it just bopped around town. And then we landed in Austin Gardens, which is this like a beautiful, very old tucked away park in Oak Park. And we've been there for 49 years. We have a great partnership with the Park District of Oak Park, who have very graciously hosted us that entire time. They give us space.
Wonderful.
And it's a cool thing to inherit a company this old that also is as scrappy as it is. I don't feel like I'm inheriting a theater like, I don't know, the Goodman or something, where to change the ship would really take a long time. Right. We can pivot really fast, but we have a built-in audience. I've been joking, it's like getting a startup, but you already have your audience built into it. So folks, I go to pretty much every show and schmooze and introduce myself to the audience as they picnic and they bring wine and they can eat before the show. And I sometimes get people saying, I came here as a kid, or my dad was a board member, and then now they're bringing their kids. So there's just like that sense of like legacy and history that's like really exciting.
Yeah.
A few just of other things about the company. We mostly do, quote unquote classical work, whatever that means. That's such a nebulous term, but it's a lot of things you would recognize. So Shakespeare, Moliere, some American canonical plays like William Inge, Picnic, things like that.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to pursue that lane, but I think what I've brought to the company is a different aesthetic of those things. It pulls it into the modern era. It's contemporary clothing. We're trying to bring more artists of color, more queer artists, visibly queer artists onto the stage, not just to keep it fresh, but to help us understand these works a little bit more deeply from our point of view.
Yeah, and give everybody a voice. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you've been there for 3 years. When you first joined, did you feel any pressure about maintaining the legacy that was you were coming to take the torch and carry forward?
I mean, yes and no. No, in that, like, so most of, as I've kind of like said in my intro, most of my work has been doing a lot of Shakespeare, and so this was just naturally a really good fit. So I'm not trying to come in and do new works, right? Like, I think that would really shift what the company is.
Right.
So in that way, it feels really easy. At the same time, I would say, like, I really feel a deep sense of, like, again, and it goes just back down to, like, being introduced to actors when I was, like, 12 and 13 or whatever as a kid, like, and knowing that, like, that's been folks, like, the theater I used to work at, that was their salary every year that they could depend on. We have a company of artists who have kept this place afloat for 30 years, and I really, think it's important to honor their work, honor their legacy, make sure that they feel they still have an artistic home, even as I'm bringing in new people and new ways of doing things. Yep. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Some of those company members have been there since 1990 and cherish this place in a way that, is really admirable. And I want to make sure that they feel they still have a space and they can thrive even as things are shifting.
Yeah, and they're, I'm sure, good resources as well, because not that, as you said, you don't want to upset the apple cart and you want to stay true to sort of how things have been going. There should always be some room for improvement and advancement, but it's nice to have those sort of stalwarts that have been with the company as long as they have.
Oh, 100%. You know, like again, like I grew up seeing shows at APT. My parents were not in the theater, who just only go because I'm in things or direct things. They know who like Jim DeVita is, right? Like because he's a company member at APT, has been there for years. Like there's something I learned watching that like there's a real power there in the community, feeling like or knowing that they have a personal connection to these artists that they see every summer, every other summer.
Yeah.
And that's important for the audience, and that's important for the artists.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. There's lots of theaters, particularly here in the Chicagoland area, and they have sort of their stable of people, and those people could be playing leads one show, they'll be playing ensemble in another one, and but the audience gets to know them season after season, and there's a level of comfort there, and they know that their money spent on a ticket is going to bring a quality with a familiar face that they enjoy seeing. Yeah.
Well, and you know, it's like what Anne Bogart says. She's like the best theater historically comes out of ensembles, right? And so, like in Chicago, that's such a deep part of the Chicago theater tradition, and like one of the reasons that this is where I just always wanted to be and always want to continue to be. It's a city of ensembles.
Yeah.
Corny about it, but it really is.
Like no other, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you have any mentors or teachers growing up that you could credit your success?
So many. I mean, I've just been really lucky to encounter some of the people I've encountered. Devin DeMaio is. I was at the National High School Institute, also known as Cherubs, at Northwestern when I was a high schooler. And she was my director in that show, and she is a big director here in Chicago. She directs everywhere. She's just been a huge advocate for me since day one. I really can trace most of my career down to her pushing me for this one first job, and then kind of everything blossoming from there. And I love her work, and I love seeing her work. I think she's incredible. I also really just am so grateful for the time I got to spend at Shakespeare Company, both in the conservatory and my summers there as an actor, getting to see several of whom have passed away now, but some actors who are in their 80s, you know, mid to late 80s, who have just been doing this for 60, 70 years. You know what I mean? Like, just to be around that and is really like, I just feel so lucky to have watched those people at that time in their lives. And, you know, like I think about, and he's still here, but like, I think about getting to work with Kevin Coleman, who's the founder of Shakespeare Company. And like their whole thing is about the voice work, and they always do a warm up before. And I was like, Kevin, why don't you ever do a warm-up? He's like, my warm-up is a cigarette before the show. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, that's so cool. I mean, you've just been doing this forever. You just like know how to like lock into the thing.
Yeah.
So I'd say that whole space. And then just many, you know, Kim Wield at Carnegie Mellon was my advisor. And I feel really lucky to have gotten to be with her for 3 years while I was there. Yeah, so many folks.
Amazing. There's that famous quote about everyone's, you know, obviously everyone has their different ways of warming up, as you mentioned, and there's that famous story of Ethel Merman. Somebody, you know, was like moments before curtain, and somebody would say, "Miss Merman, the show's about to start. Don't you want to warm up?" And she'd say, "Honey, that's what the first act is for."
Right.
Everybody.
I mean, when pros have been doing this for so long, they know their instruments so well, they know their audience so well in the space. They kind of just need to keep it and go.
That's right. So, give us a little insight as to your preparation with directing works such as Shakespeare that are so well known, and you putting your own stamp on them. Like, what are your go-to resources when reforming it to put your voice on them?
Yeah. Well, in terms of like go-to resources, I don't think I ever like anymore. When I was younger, definitely, but like anymore, like pick up a book and like try and read about the play, because I'm kind of like, I'm such a nerd. I'm like, I never stop reading about that period of drama. Like, at some point I'm like, gosh, I gotta pick up a different kind of book. So it's just like kind of like always just like, or like a different podcast. Like I was just listening to like a podcast about the Tudors literally before this. I was like, I'm such a dweeb. So I'm constantly thinking about it, and I'm just really obsessed with that period of time. But I think for me, I don't know how to answer this without sounding like too pretentious, but like
No, not at all.
um, I've been in a lot of Shakespeare plays now. I've been in like I don't know double digits, and I'm now probably have directed in the double digits or in like and higher, and so I'm in a place where I just really trust this canon of plays. Like I know they work,
Yeah.
and I think the way I can usually sort of crack into them is like I'll just really I do a little chart of like um, just like what the rising and falling action is with every single act, then scene, and then I break it down into French scenes. French scenes are when people, someone new enters or someone exits, right? And so then I could
Oh,
kind of see what the flow of the play is. And so,
yeah.
like for example, Twelfth Night's really interesting. It is a play that has a ton of um, acts and scenes on like the first half of the play, right?
Yeah.
The scenes are turning over and then it slows down. But as it's slowing down, there's like way more French scenes. So you get this sense that there's like an internal rhythm that's like really speeding up
Sure, sure.
as the play is like, coming down.
Yeah.
So like that just like making a visual of it like sometimes helps me get into like what is just the flow of this thing, why is it moving this way, what does that mean,
Yeah.
like, and so that usually helps, and then I'll start to like think about like from there like what a personal connection to it is, or like
Hmm.
why is it moving this way. So for example, for 12th night I just really started to like lock into, and I guess I also was drawing from historical record, but like lock into that like both Olivia and Viola have lost brothers at the top of this play. That's usually like really glibly jumped over.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I think we actually have to move really slow in the first half and like sit in this place of grief, right? Like, and not dodge it. Make each moment like the scene with the clown and Mariah at the top. That's not actually like a funny scene. It's about two people like re-meeting each other as they're both mourning. Like I think we got to move slowly, and then it will pick up, and as it picks up it will get funnier. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like drawing from all these different things, and yeah, and sorry, now I'm really sort of going off
That's okay.
but like as I was thinking about that play too, I was like, okay, this is about grief. It's about two women who are grieving their brothers, and I was like, oh right, this was written like right after Shakespeare's son died. He had two daughters, and I was like, oh, is this a play about his daughters like trying to figure out how they grieved their brother, right? So just like, and we can never like fully know this, but like
Yeah.
finding a way to make it feel personal is the way into the play for me,
Wow.
usually.
That's really insightful, particularly about the death of his son and
Yeah.
attributing it to that play.
People
Uh,
usually focus on Hamlet, right? Because his son was named Hamnet, and then he wrote Hamlet like 2 years later, and so we're like, oh, it's about a father son. But this was written at the same time as Hamlet, and I was like, oh, interesting. It's about these women and they're grieving their brother. So like, I think it's an artist trying to grapple with a huge life event that happened to him and his family.
yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to coming to see the production. I haven't had a chance to get out to the Oak Park in a while. So with the current production of Twelfth Night, you guys are running through August 16th.
Correct.
What are some things you want people to know about the production that either aren't familiar with Shakespeare, or about this production in general, about the concept behind it, or anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, so now that I just gave that hook, I joke I'm not like a concept or vision director. I'm like, what is the vibe?
Yeah, yeah.
So like,
Vibes are important.
what's the vibe, right? Like I'm never gonna set it on Mars, or I'm never gonna set it in World War II. I think those specific his plays aren't real. They're not. There's nothing real about any of his plays, right? Like
Right.
they're fantasy on a certain level. So when you try to lock them into a specific time or date, it like kills the thing. But what I would say, you know, I've had an interesting reaction talking to people. I've had two reactions. Either people tell me that this is their favorite play of all time. Like
Hmm.
I've gotten that a lot, which I was not expecting. Or people are like, I have no idea what 12th Night is, which I also was not expecting. I was like, oh, this is one of the big names, da da da. Da. And so whether you fall into either one of those camps or somewhere else, like I think what what people will see in this production is just a different approach in terms of like what I was talking about, pace. Like we move quite slowly in the beginning. We're not feeling the itch to have to be funny right away, right? Like we're letting it settle. And then we earn the laughs because it's all these characters sort of like going off the rails. And there's something really delightful about seeing these people have to shift from being in grief to suddenly falling in love. That is kind of maddening, and we get to watch them go on that journey, and that's really funny to watch.
Yeah.
I will say all our productions, since I'm coming in at Oak Park, are in contemporary clothes. I joke, a lot of my audience asks me why we don't do period, and I'm like, well, because they're expensive, hot, and break easily, and we're outdoors. So,
Yeah.
if you want to see that, write me a big check and we'll do it. But like until that time, like we're going to keep it modern, and I think that's also just a way to make it feel more psychologically contemporary. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's interesting you bring up the point about period costumes being hot, because I have a group, a singing group. We perform a lot outdoors in the summertime, and we wear clothes just like this, all matching. But when we started with our, when we started this group and we were doing outside performances, we would wear our red jackets with our pants and our ties. And after one summer, I said, no, that's got to change. And I saw an article the other day that there's a whole conversation now about among outdoor theaters who've been doing this for so long, who are now bringing into the conversation of, look, climate change is really impacting our actors' well-being because it's 95 degrees at 7 o'clock at night. And how do we fix this, because the well-being of our performers is, high on our priority list. And that's an interesting it's interesting that you brought that up, because I just read an article about that this week.
Yeah.
Many companies are facing that same challenge.
You have to. My first year, I don't think she'll mind me sharing this, but my first year we were doing Midsummer and we were rehearsing. Our set is usually built by the time we start rehearsals, or at least maybe not painted, but it's built, and we can rehearse on it if we need to. And so I was rehearsing outside, and the actress playing Hermia just like fell right over because it was so hot. And I was like, okay, lesson learned. Let's be inside. We can't. It's why we can't do matinees. It's just the company used to, and I think before the severity of climate change that we're all experiencing now, like that was doable. It's just not anymore.
Yeah.
And no one told me when I got this job that I'd have to be a meteorologist. Like the way I'm checking, I have like 10 apps on my phone. I'm constantly checking, including like, what I forget what the exact phrasing is, but like particles per cubic foot of like dust, smoke particles from Canada when it gets too hot and we get smoke down in Chicago. I have to like monitor that because there's certain levels we can't be at safely. So there's all sorts of like fun weather related things.
Yeah, gosh, I didn't even think about the air quality with relation to regard to the smoke particles. Gosh.
My first year we canceled 2 shows because it was so bad, and it's not safe for the actors, and it's not safe. It's not safe for the audience. Our audience tends to be older, and they just shouldn't be outside in that weather.
Wow. I feel badly that you have to wear so many hats, including meteorologists in that role.
We're just acquiring skills. That's
a good way to look at it. So if you had to choose one lesson in your time in the theater that you think everybody should learn, what would that be?
It's so funny now that I'm a little older and I see we have young actors in the cast, and they ask me, they're like, how am I doing? And I'm like, you're doing great. And then I see them like not digest that statement. And I have flashbacks to me asking older actors that same thing. And they're like, you're doing fine. And also not digesting that. And I think take the compliment and trust, right? It's all about trust, trusting yourself, trusting the opinion of others. It's it's a really scary job due to just the insecurity of the job itself, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to add to that anxiety. You can trust you're doing good work.
Well said.
If you are holding yourself accountable to that.
Yeah. And I think there's so much we compare ourselves so much now with, looking at Instagram and Facebook and comparing our lives to what they're seeing on the internet, and we sort of forget that that's not reality,
right?
So even just from day to day, people who even aren't in the theater, they're already experiencing that comparison and thinking that they're less than because of what they're seeing. So then when you actually get told that for real, no, you're really great and doing a great job, it's hard to digest, I could imagine, because we're being told we're always comparing ourselves to others that we think are better.
Well, and unfortunately, I think, unlike maybe another desk job where you're like, I got to just dig in more. I got to the anxiety fuels me and you can just check things off a box. I think that the anxiety is killer to quality work. You know what I mean? You can't be totally an anxious mess and then go be Hamlet. Or go be Viola, right? You have to the body needs to be calm at a certain level to let whatever emotional things are happening in the scene come out, be clear in your actions and objectives, right? Having that extra noise is extra noise that actually dampens the work a little bit.
Yeah, so that's a good way of looking at it too. I was I wouldn't say dealing with stage fright, but I occasionally will get really nervous before performance. And somebody told me once that is just because you care. You want it to be so good and you're worried that it's not going to be. But if you just trust, then all of the nerves will, just go by the wayside. And they were so right. I never thought of it that way. And it really helped.
It's about where do you put your attention? It's what we do is scary. So it's totally natural for the body to respond that way. But are you going to feed the anxiety, or are you going to be no, let me do my work and trust that will go away once I lock in,
Yeah. So where can people learn more about Oak Park Festival Theater?
On our website, oakparkfestival.com is the quickest and fastest way to get everything you could possibly need. We've also got, we're on not all the socials, we're on Instagram and Facebook predominantly.
Yeah.
I'd say that if you want to join our newsletter, that is another really great way, and you'll find that on our website. If you go to the contact page, you can sign up there, and we do weekly updates and talks from me, talks from the artists, things like that. So that's a great way to learn a little bit more. And seeing the show.
Yes, see the show.
That's the best way, honestly. Come see the show.
And they can get tickets on the website, of course. Only directly through the website, no third-party sites carrying tickets.
It'll take you to a Ticket Tailor, which is the processing app that we use, but it is on our website. You can also do walk-up, so we have basically unlimited seating because we're outdoors in the park. So
sure.
If you want to rush it at the last minute, feel free. I would also say we do pay what you will nights on Thursday nights. So
that's excellent.
If you've got $1, if you've got 50 cents, whatever you've got, bring that. That's totally fine. And all are welcome. Thank you. This was really fun.
Thank you. I really appreciate meeting you. And I hope to get out to see 12th Night before August 16th.
Yeah, please let me know.
I will. Thanks. Take care.
Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Theater. Thanks for joining us at the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Chicago Theater Makers Podcast is a production of Spirit Art LLC, and our podcast theme music is by Paul Langford. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please drop us a note at our website, ChiTheaterMakersPodcast.com. That's ChiTheater Makers with an S, podcast.com. We hope you enjoyed spending time with us as much as we enjoyed spending it with you, and we'll see you on the board soon.